How's it going, YouTube? Red Impact here. Do us a favour, hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and hey, leave some comments. Tell me what you want to yarn about. So, I want to talk about why Dean Lonergan, Australian boxing promoter, is a bit of a knob. So, I was catching up on some of the Justis Huni, Joe Goodall post-fight commentary and interviews. Fantastic fight, heaps of action. Justis Huni, exceptional performance, very fast, lots of combinations, too much speed for Goodall, totally dominated the fight and got the unanimous decision. Joe Goodall, absolute warrior, improved a lot during this fight. You can see he's started to develop that jab through some training with Kevin Barry. Still a ways to go. Some damage to that eye, and it puffed up and he couldn't see out of it, and he kept coming forward and wearing some big shots from Huni. Really hung in there right till the end. So, you got to admire the bloke's heart. Don't want to take anything away from Justis Huni. Just fantastic, great kid, bright future. Really wish him well and hope to see him start to move up in those top 15 ranking. Who knows, maybe a bit more development and snag a belt down the track. We'll see. But what I want to yarn to you guys about is this comment here that Dean made after the fight.
Like seriously, he came to wrestle, he headbutted. It was a disgusting performance in my opinion by Joe Goodall. He had a massive opportunity to come down here and set up an ongoing rivalry with Justis Huni where people would be excited to see them come together. Goodall did nothing but make the fight as dirty as he possibly could and made it as boring as he possibly could. And if they think they're ever going to come and have a rematch with Justis Huni, they can go themselves.
So what do you think, guys? I mean, from my point of view, so there was a head clash in there from Goodall. He was trying to use bully tactics. He was trying to bring the fight in close, go into the clinch a bit more, because I'm sure he knew from having spent so much time sparring Huni that he wasn't going to outpace him. He wasn't going to outbox him because Huni's just so damn fast, bloody fast. So he had to bring another strategy. It's a bit like Anthony Joshua going back in against Usyk. He's got to build himself up. He's got to use some bully tactics. It's a bit like Tyson Fury with Deontay Wilder. He had to use his size, and Joe Goodall, slightly bigger fella than Justis Huni. So he had to get in there and he had to be a bit aggressive and he had to bring the fight and use a different strategy. The thing is, Dean, it's not an uncommon strategy. You're referring to it as wrestling, but he had to bring a sound tactic, and that was to bring the fight. Huni's so fast, man, you couldn't even see his arms moving. It was like it was Joe Goodall versus the Flash, and Huni'd make that big sound he makes, and by that stage, by the time the sound hit your ears, he'd thrown 6 punches, and everyone's just there going, what the hell was that? It's Huni landing punches, this big bloody flurry. So to try and compete with that, you've got to get the other fella to stand still. So it's reasonable to go to the clinch. You've got to have these things in your arsenal when you're coming up against such a bloody superhero of a fighter who's got such frickin' speed. So this was a bit of a brawler up against a really slick boxer, and as they say, styles make fights, and the fact that these guys were bringing 2 fairly different styles was what made it a really cool fight. And I don't think there was anything wrong with Goodall's approach. But the real reason Lonergan's been a bit of a goose in this case is because he's contradicting himself. When Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao, Jeff used a similar approach. And there was a head clash from Jeff's head. He was really getting up in Pacquiao's face. Lonergan, who supposedly doesn't like this fighting style, big advocate for Jeff Horn then. There was a lot of advocacy around the fact that Jeff Horn would take the fight to Terence Crawford. Obviously he didn't. Terence Crawford won that one quite convincingly. But Dean Lonergan was a supporter of the pressure fighting style where Jeff Horn was going to be the dominant aggressor in that fight and was going to kind of bully Crawford. Jeff Horn definitely used that approach when he beat Manny Pacquiao. I also think he outpointed Pacquiao. That fight went to an official review and Jeff Horn was still successful. But that's another story. But point being, Dean Lonergan is okay having a whinge about bullying tactics when it suits him. In this case, he was behind his boy Huni, who copped one through the head clash. Ref didn't seem to pick it up, but the reaction from Lonergan, over the top.
So here's what Goodall had to say at the end of the fight.
Good confidence on my power. I couldn't catch him clean. Even the overhands were, I don't know why, it's taking it out of me, looping over the top. I just couldn't get out of second, third gear. I wanted to land a few more combinations on the ropes. I felt like I should have been more dominant in the clinches than I was tonight. He's the better man tonight. He's the better boxer. He's sharp. He's fast. I know he's fast, but I just couldn't get out of. I couldn't land the combinations I wanted to. His reactions were good. He kind of slipped his punch. His eyes very good, and I just couldn't get off tonight.
Where does this leave your career now, Joe?
I'm not really too sure. I gotta go.
So Joe Goodall, you can hear the emotion in his voice. He's feeling pretty down, obviously. It's been a tough night at the office. Got the swelling in the eye. He's come from a place where didn't have a lot of money, was supported by someone with a bit of cash to move over to America and develop his fighting. They saw something in Joe. He's obviously been given this opportunity, and he's come and he's absolutely thrown everything at it. But he really showed a lot of heart and determination in spite of him being up against it. And I think if you got someone investing some money in you, you'd be feeling a sense of responsibility. So no doubt he's probably hurting for all sorts of reasons, and he's had this opportunity and it hasn't paid off for him. So he's going to have to go back and regroup. But going back to Lonergan, fair go, mate. Seriously, kicking a bloke while he's down. He's just lost a fight. He's just lost the biggest opportunity of his life. And you're saying that about him. And you're also talking about taking away his future opportunities. And the final reason, YouTube, that I think Dean Lonergan is a bit of a drongo is the way that this fight's been promoted. So I was watching some other YouTubers and they were having a chat about this fight, and they were talking about the promotion and the use of the words undisputed, undefeated in big writing all over the promotional materials. And they were talking about the use of that language and how disrespectful it is in the world of boxing, which I tend to agree with. Undisputed's reserved for the big guys. It's reserved for Kostya, it's reserved for Canelo. It's reserved for those guys who have really earned that title. It's almost a bit sacred in the world of boxing, and to kind of use that to promote a couple of fellas who are still up and comers to the general public, I get that. The idea is to try and target the general public and maybe not boxing fanatics or people who are usually going to pick up on this type of thing. But it looked tacky. It made the promoters look like amateurs, and I don't think it did the fight promotion any justice. Excuse the pun there, Justis Huni. Well guys, that's my breakdown. That's why I think Dean Lonergan, in this case, has been a knob. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment. Was Dean over the top? Was he too harsh on Joe Goodall? Or was Joe Goodall a bit dirty in his fighting tactics? Did he bring a bit too much wrestling? Cheers.